Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Liz and Laryssa, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in the industry.
Welcome to episode 63. In this episode, Liz and I are going to talk about how you can best allocate your resources for your jewelry business next year. So, how to set your priorities and determine the resources you'll need, and how to decide where to be spending your marketing dollars. We also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. In the bonus content of this episode, we discuss some ways you can free yourself up to work more on your business rather than in your business. And we'll also talk about what that means. To get access to that exclusive content, as well as direct access to me and Liz, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey, Liz, let's get into it.
Let's get into this. This is such an important topic. I've been thinking about trade shows, talking to a lot of designers about trade shows because I'm working on something really cool with New York Now. But when I'm talking to designers, it's so good to talk to ones who really understand what their goals are and what budgets they have and where they're looking to prioritize their resources. But it's not easy to do.
Yeah, that just brings so much more clarity into like the path that you need to take and helps you, again, even if you only have a small marketing budget, you know how to kind of spend it more effectively.
Right. And then when opportunities come your way, or you're thinking about applying to something, or, revamping your website or things like that, you know what you have available to use.
Exactly. So let's start by talking about how do you actually set your priorities and then determine the resources you'll need from there.
I mean, it always comes down to goals. Goals are so important. And I think this is something that at this point in the year, and we're recording this the week after Thanksgiving, all of it is lost. I feel like everyone is operating by let me get through this next day, this next week, through the end of the year, through my final shift.
There's also, I'm feeling it. So like not motivated at all to like think about next year. I know I'll have to do it eventually, but right now I'm just having a Thanksgiving hangover.
I find every year around this time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm ever going to like run my business again. Like you just get so burnt out, you kind of hit a wall. But then you have that break between Christmas and New Year's and you come out in January kind of renewed. So I'm just having faith in like that happening again because it happens every year.
Well, that's such a good point you make, Liz, because I think if you're kind of still like really new to business, you maybe aren't used to those like seasonal fluctuations and the moods and all that comes with it. But over time, you kind of get to know like those ebbs and flows of how you feel.
I find I still like after many, many years of doing this, I still start to feel a little crazy at this point in the year. But I think goals are so important. And I'm kind of sharing this, how I'm feeling right now, because it brings me to this point of like, I need to reflect back on my goals. Like, what were my goals for this year? Because if you're starting to feel like spirally or crazy or like overwhelmed by your business, sometimes something that's really grounding to do is look at your goals. But goals drive everything that you do.
Absolutely. And I think, we talk about this a lot, being like as specific as possible with the goals. So instead of just saying like, I want to hire people or I want to make more money, like put a number to it and a timeline and find ways that you can like measure that so you know when you've achieved the goal.
I think something else that's really important to do is to reflect on the past year. And that's why it's so good to along the way take notes or report monthly or however you do your reporting. It's so important to be able to look back on something because you can't just like rely on your brain to remember everything. And even just notes like, oh, I did this event or I did this trade show and this is what came of it. So that you have something to look back on. But really, like, it's a huge tell. Like, how did last year go? what are you looking to change going forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then once you have the goal, then you can kind of see, like, work back from it. What is it going to take to get there? Like, do you need specific resources? Are you going to need money? Are you going to need to carve out time to like work on a thing? And that's where you can kind of like plan up to it, carve out time in your schedule, find ways to get the money that you need to do the thing, whatever that may be.
All of this is the kind of work that I think is hard to carve out time for because it doesn't feel like there's a direct line between this and sales.
Mhm.
But it really is the foundation of your business.
Yeah. Well, this is more for the bonus episode, but this is like working on the business rather than in the business. And I think people have a hard time working on the business because that doesn't always have like an immediate impact. And so you almost feel like you're not doing anything in a way. It's like, oh, what's the point of this? When working in your business might be like fulfilling orders or talking to customers, like making product. That is a more like tangible thing with an outcome. But the on your business is the part that will help you make money
In the long run, for
in the
sure.
long run. Yes. Yeah. And even if you don't have those resources right now, like let's say the goal is it's attainable, but it's maybe like a little bit pushing yourself, and you might have to kind of find ways to get those resources you need. Maybe make a plan or brainstorm ideas for how you can kind of get closer to that, because the resources might be there, but they may not be obvious to you right now.
That's such a good point.
So other things I think that you'd want to look at is like, what does the market look like too? Because there are only so many things that you and your business can have control over. I mean, you have control over a lot, but like 2023 consumer spending, I think, was down. I think it was a difficult year for a lot of jewelry businesses. So people went into the year with certain goals. Maybe you got closer to those goals, but like there's nothing you can do about the economy, you know? So it would be helpful to think about, well, what are the projections for next year? Like, how can you realistically adjust your goals for that without like setting yourself up for failure or disappointment? So those are really important to think about too.
I saw an interesting article in JCK that said that consumer spending on jewelry was up on Black Friday, but more big box stores. So I thought that was interesting, is that people were walking into stores to buy jewelry on Black Friday. And I think from what I've seen and the clients I work with and designers I chat with, it was often for a lot of them down when it came to like the independent designers and the online sales.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there are always those people shopping for last minute jewelry gifts at the mall. I know because I used to work in a mall jewelry store. And they tend to have like more they tend to have a wider variety of price points that like appeal to a lot of different customer gifting needs too. So that just works for a lot of people.
Right. So something else to think about is understanding the core components of resource allocation. So you'll either need more time, more money, or more people, or a combination.
Yeah. So if you don't have the money, you're going to need more time or more help or one or two of the others, so you have to kind of decide, well, what do I have right now? What can I add, or like, what can I find in the new year? And how am I going to lean into that? Because you're going to need something.
Yeah, and you could think about technology to save yourself time and reduce labor costs, maybe. I mean, we've talked about AI. There's ChatGPT if you really need help writing. But there's obviously like other ways that you can use technology to help your business.
Yeah. And now it's so, I wouldn't say easy, but there are options even globally. Like, you say you want like a virtual assistant or like some part-time person to do more like repetitive work for you. You don't necessarily have to hire like in your local market if that's not in your budget right now.
Yeah, hiring somebody to like get product on the website or something like that, a virtual assistant is a great option.
Yeah, it's like if putting product on your website is taking you like 2 to 3 hours in a day and you can pay someone to do that, and then you can take those 2 to 3 hours to do things that are long-term going to help you make money, that's an investment that you're making, because hopefully that growth that you're generating is going to be more than what you're paying that person to like help you with for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah. And if you're able to streamline certain areas of your business to free up your own time. So something I think that's a really great place to start if you're looking for help is packaging up orders, hiring somebody part-time to come in and like, do your packaging for you. That's a great way to take stuff off your plate if you need to be at your bench or something like that. But always be thinking about how you can streamline.
Yeah. And if there are really repetitive tasks in your business, like what Liz said, one day when you're doing them, sit down and literally like write out the steps. It'll feel very tedious, but you do that once and then you have a guide to literally give to someone else to do it, rather than you feeling like you have to do all the things in your business.
In corporate America, that's called an SOP, a standard operating procedure.
Yes.
It's really just a list of how you do a certain task. And then you have a big binder of like how you do all the tasks. And updating that was like, I still have nightmares about it.
I think one of like the biggest like aha moments that a lot of business owners have when you transition from like, I'm like a very small business to like growing, is at first you think I'm the only person who can do all these things. No one else can do them as good as me. I have to do all of them. But I promise you, when you get to a certain point, you'll realize like there are people who can do certain things better than you. And it's like a humbling thing, but also that's realization is what's going to help you grow, because those people will push you, they'll improve your business.
You are someone who has hired people. I am someone who has not hired people. I'm still in the mindset, and maybe this is something I work on in 2024, that like only I can do this.
I used to have that mindset. And I think that's why I can like speak to that. And now that I've gotten over that hump and I have a team, they do some things better than me. And you know what? I'm totally fine with that, because then I don't have to do those things anymore.
Oh my gosh, we should dive in deeper and do an episode specific about that. It could be like a therapy session for me. how to streamline my business, because right now it is not streamlined.
Yeah, totally. Let's do it.
Something else to think about is, are you fully aware of your seasonal flow? So like ebbs and flows throughout the year, like when do you typically sell more? And it's interesting. This is an interesting topic for me because I was just talking to a designer that's like, I've been doing this for 10 years and I still don't understand where like the high points in the year are for me, because it's so inconsistent. So I think this is a tricky one.
Yeah. My question to that person would be, how consistent are you with your marketing? Because I find it's actually not the pattern of the customers, but you're kind of just marketing like when you feel like it. And then that makes the patterns happen in like weird ways.
That's such a good point and such a good follow-up question. Because also, like, if you're doing like a drop model where you're like dropping collections, like a lot of that affects what you're doing. Like if you're doing
Yeah.
a push, and promoting a new collection or promoting a sale or something, and you're seeing increases. So that's why it's so good to take notes too. Because if you're like, I saw a spike in my business in November, and then you see, oh, well, that's when I did my small business Saturday sale. And I did a lot of marketing around that. Like those are two good things to connect to each other.
Yeah. Cause you're not going to remember, especially over 10 years, like trying to like make sense of that. No.
Definitely.
So I know not everyone necessarily has a big marketing budget, but you can get creative with it. You can get resourceful. Budget can even mean like your own time, blood, sweat, and tears. So how do you know like where to allocate and spend that?
You have to set a budget. And then from having your budget, like what activities impact your business the most? And if you don't know, you could get in touch with a business or a marketing consultant. They could help you. Um, see what gets the most attention and traffic. And also like, where are your sales coming from? That's like one of the first questions I ask designers if I'm doing a consulting call is like, where are your sales coming from now? Because that's usually an indicator of where you want to lean in, or maybe it's an indicator that you need to put more energy into other places to push sales in those places as well.
Definitely. And that just prevents you from kind of having spur of the moment ideas about something you want to spend money on. Or if like kind of what Liz said, like a last minute opportunity comes up to go buy an ad over here, you're not going to be tempted to do something that probably won't work because you'll already have a plan.
Totally. And this is so crucial. Designers who say yes to like the advertorial in Vogue, like
That's what I was thinking about.
usually on like page like 200 and it's like small and it's an advertorial. It's like you have to do that many times for that to produce and like probably get press in the magazine as well. Like there's a lot of layers to advertising. You don't want to just do one-off things. Like even when it comes to like Instagram saying like boost this post, like think through what you're doing. And the more you have a plan, I think that is what leads to success, not just choosing these opportunities, like knowing, having a plan and not just choosing things just because they came your way.
Yeah. And if something feels like it's going to be like the answer that you've been looking for, don't pursue that because there's no magical answer. Nobody believes us, but it's true.
I know, but it's a tough pill to swallow. But also, if stuff comes up like that, like don't hesitate to DM either of us because
Yeah.
to let you know my thoughts on those types of things because I think it is tough when somebody's presenting you with like, oh, this is a really great opportunity, and if you sign up today, you get this really great price.
Yeah, totally. If it sounds like a car salesman, used car salesman, it's a used car salesman. Yes. Also, I think it's important to just be aware like how much marketing costs. And I went back to see, I know we talked about this before. It was episode 30. So you can go back and like listen to that episode. And if you're trying to save money, I totally understand that. But a lot of times the cheap solution is going to end up being more expensive later because you'll have to redo it. I literally just talked to someone yesterday who hired someone like on Fiverr. And I'm not knocking Fiverr because there are good people on Fiverr and you can have a good experience, but I think they were really trying to like do something on a budget and it was all bad and had to be redone. And I'm like,
Yeah, I've seen that many times. I think that there's also like if you have a smaller budget, like not doing things cheap, but you can think outside of the box, even if it's like scary or uncomfortable. Like collaborations, which we've been talking about, are really exciting and could be really impactful to your business, or like direct outreach or small events or things that you can do that maybe aren't mass marketing and involve you putting yourself out there a little bit more, but could be very impactful.
Yeah, I think especially if you have a small budget, you have to be more assertive, creative, willing to experiment, really like putting yourself out there. And I'm not seeing that enough. I think people just think the money is everything or they throw money at things, but that's not the answer at all.
Yeah. And then lastly, like go into the year with a full plan so that you can be confident and feel confident about how you're spending your money. That doesn't mean that you can't thoughtfully make changes along the way, but what you don't want to be doing is making decisions on the fly.
No, because you'll end up in an advertorial. We're gonna get some like nasty email from the sales team.
I don't think they're listening to this podcast. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we want to know, do you feel set up for success in 2024? Let us know. You can visit successwithjewelry.com to sign up for the extended episode as well as exclusive content. Thanks so much for listening.